Hi, I'm Hugh Whitmore. I'm the author of the Three Madeleines novel series for middle graders, and this is part of my series on encouraging young authors. Today we're talking about dialogue and narrative in your writing. Dialogue is when your characters are speaking to one another. Narrative is when a narrator is speaking. So it's something coming out of the mind of your narrator, and the narrator is usually your main character. Now, I tend to like dialogue because I'm better at the emotions of that and bringing out information that way and moving my plot along that way in my scenes, in my novel. However, narrative is vital to setting scenes and moods and describing things for the reader to help them then enjoy the dialogue when it comes along. There's another thing in narrative called beats, which are short pieces of narrative to help describe something, to put a mental picture for your reader. And we'll get to those. And you need to learn how to use both to your advantage. So again, I like dialogue and I'm very good at it, but narrative sets up my dialogue and beats help set up my dialogue. So I learned to master both and work them all together, and you'll need to do the same thing. Now you'll be able to also look into the books you like, the novels you've read, and see what is the author doing with the narrative versus the dialogue. What do you like? What do you think you can use to your advantage as a writer to keep your readers interested and to make a very beautiful story? So let's use a little dialogue and narrative in a scene in a novel. Let's say there's a guy, and his name is Roger. And Roger is standing in his driveway waiting for his brother Mark to come pick him up. And now we don't have two characters, we just have one person standing there, so we need some narrative. So Roger pulls his coat closely around his neck. It's nearly freezing and it's nearly dark. He has no idea why Mark called him out here and where they're going. He never could count on his brother being very rational. All of a sudden, a roar from down the street announces the arrival of Mark's clunker. Mark never was good at saving his money. If he was a little bit more prudent, he could have had a much newer car. Okay, that's narrative. What do we got? Not the greatest thing there, but that's writing. You get the ideas out, you put them on paper, then you edit them, and you really tighten them up and make them really good. Okay, so what is happening for our readers, though? They're getting drawn in. Okay, we've got a setting. We've got a guy outside. He's kind of suffering. He's out in this cold and it's late and he doesn't know what's going on and he's waiting for his brother, and then he hears a roar from a clunker. Well, his brother, now we know a little something about his brother. He doesn't save his money. Maybe he's not responsible. He's got a clunker of a car that he can hear all the way down the street. So that really sets it up to do what? To finish it off with some dialogue. So another piece of narrative. Roger would have to say, he slung the door open and it creaked like an unoiled hinge on a gate, and then he gets inside and slams the door and the door handle rattles. A little bit more narrative. So then dialogue ensues. All right, so then Roger says, well, that's dialogue, right? And then without looking over, his teeth clenched, Mark says, we're going to see Dad. All right, we just had a little dialogue. So then we kind of know what's going on because Mark had his teeth clenched, right? The reader reads that. So teeth clenched would mean he's upset about something, or he's angry, or he's kind of grinding his teeth, right? So, but then what we can do to really let the reader know what's going on is use a piece of narrative called a beat. And that's just a little piece of narrative you drop in there in between some dialogue to really show the reader what's going on in the mind of this other character. Because we can never know what's going on in the mind of another character. Only the narrator can know that. So maybe the narrator says, in other words, our narrator being Roger, he had spit the words out like it was a bad seed in a rotten melon. Okay, again, not the greatest thing, right? But we know he spit something out and it tasted bad, right? And so we know something's going on with Mark and his dad. You're going to see Dad. Or maybe he's forced to go to his dad's, or he hates to go to his dad. Maybe he hasn't seen his dad in 10 years, right? And so what we're getting at here, and I hope you realize, is that your reader doesn't know what's going on. Always remember that. Your reader doesn't know anything. You know everything, but you want to parcel it out a little at a time to your readers. Let them enjoy it as it unfolds. One little beat at a time, a little sentence at a time, maybe some longer dialogue. Maybe then they get into a fight. That's great dialogue, and a lot of information and a lot of emotion and a lot of great beats can come in a fight. They get in a fight over this. Well, I don't want to go see Dad. Well, I don't either, but he called me. Well, I don't want to go see Dad because he's just going to yell at us like last time. And so the emotions are peaked. And then maybe they work through a problem. That's dialogue. But then maybe it all quiets back down and now they're saying nothing and more narrative comes in. And he goes through the deep thoughts in his mind, how foreboding it is. He doesn't want to go see his dad. Well, that's how dialogue and narrative work together, and how beats dropped in at the right moment can really sharpen up your writing. Keep your readers involved and keep your story involved in unfolding, in normal time. And that'll really help you be a better writer, and people will keep coming back to what you write.